Hey y'all, DJ Short from NBC Sports Edge here. It's 1 o'clock Eastern time. I have a hot cup of coffee ready to go here. I'm ready to talk some fantasy baseball with you guys for the next 30, 40 minutes here. Let me take a sip of my coffee. Fresh cup. Perfect. And we have afternoon baseball today. Ready to talk fantasy baseball with you guys. So I'm going to give some folks a little bit of time to get in here. Uh, Interesting night last night in baseball. We saw some regression from certain starting pitchers. Kevin Gosman. We saw two more aces leave games due to injury. Jacob DeGrom leaving after four no-hit innings due to wrist soreness. That is maybe the most Jacob DeGrom thing ever, to leave a start after four no-hit innings due to injury. It is one of those situations where I believe DeGrom said after the game that he just didn't want to push it and didn't want to alter his mechanics and cause other sorts of another injury. So hopefully, it's just that minor issue and he's ready to go for his next start. But as we know with Jacob DeGrom, sometimes these things don't turn out exactly like you might have hoped. Corbin Burns also left his start Monday with what's being called a minor pectoral strain, left in the sixth inning. Believes the injury happened applying a tag and a rundown earlier in the game. Pitched well before leaving, actually got the win, but he'll be reevaluated on Tuesday. Hopes to not miss a turn in the rotation, but we'll see, especially with what's going on with Brandon Woodruff and his shoulder, a long-term absence there most likely. There's every reason for the Brewers to play it safe with their ace. So we'll see what happens with him. Patrick Wisdom has been garnering a lot of attention in fantasy leagues of late. Hit two homers last night. Now tied with Pete Alonso for the major league lead with 8 home runs. And the power isn't really a surprise with Wisdom, I would say. He's hit 20 plus homers in each of the last 2 years. Had 25 last year, 28 in 2021. But there are some changes that are at least indicating that perhaps there's some improvement here. The contact rate is up to 73% with Patrick Wisdom so far this year. We said 66.4% last year, 61.6% in 2021. So again, 73%. Strikeout rate is down to 31.6%, which is still high, but way down from 2 years ago. He's like 40%. The quality contact's very good for Wisdom as well. So his XBA is 270. So he's earning what he's doing as far as quality of contact. What isn't likely to continue is this rate of home runs. His home run to fly ball rate, Patrick Wisdom, 47.1%. Almost half the time he puts the ball in the air, it's leaving the ballpark. Aaron Judge, in his massive power season last year, his record-setting power season last year, he was at 35.6%. So Patrick Wisdom, 47.1%. Judge was at 35.6% last year, and he was by far the highest in the majors. Jordan Alvarez was 25.3%. So that's going to come down. Can Wisdom keep it up from a power perspective? Yes, absolutely. And ride the wave for now. But yeah, I'm not sure it's going to continue at quite this rate. So enjoy it for now. Wanted to give everyone some time to get in here and start to submit their questions. Again, I'll be here for the next 30 minutes or so, 30, 40 minutes. We'll see what we can get through. As far as your questions, we can talk fantasy. We can talk real baseball. We can talk, any kind of betting stuff on your mind, any kind of props you're looking at for today, whatever you want to talk about. I'm here to hang out with you guys. So where should we start? Let's see. Go. Steven has a question here. He says, what are your thoughts on James Outman? Does it look like he has staying power, or is he more of a trade high? I believe in what we're seeing so far from Outman, and he's one of those players that I wished I was more aggressive on in the spring, because the stuff, he looks good. The sprint speed is legit. He has a good approach at the plate. sprint speed's 92nd percentile, and he does not chase pitches. So, the good approach, which is nice to see for a rookie, for someone with his limited experience in the majors, and the quality of contacts there as well. 94th percentile in barrel percentage. He does swing and miss quite a bit. So while he doesn't chase, there is some swing and miss to his game, but he also gets on base a lot. So the walk rate's there. There's opportunity in the Dodgers outfield. So I don't really see him as a sell high, especially, given just the limited track record here. I don't think there's a lot you're going to be able to trade him for. So yeah, I think Outman's more of a hold, and that Dodgers lineup isn't exciting or deep as it once was. Will Smith will hopefully be back soon from his concussion symptoms, but even with Smith back, it's not quite what it used to be, but it's still pretty good territory there that you want a piece of. So at next here from Mitch, do you think Alvarado or Quijada will take over as their team's closers, and which one is the better one to roster? I think maybe Quijada has the best opportunity. There's no clear name in that bullpen to me who necessarily stands out as the top guy. Like, if he gets a couple of chances and he rolls with it, like, he could have it for a while. I think Alvarado is the best pitcher in the Phillies bullpen as things stand today, but there's a lot of options there. There's a lot of ways it could potentially go. So Quijada, I think, would be my number one choice, but Alvarado, even if he isn't getting saves, there's a lot of value there with him, and really what he's done dating back to last August. I mean, he's been pretty much unhittable, one of the best relievers in the game since then. So, yeah, he could, even if he's not getting saves, he could snag a couple of wins here and there, as well as maybe potentially down the line save chances. So I like them. I do like them both. Next up here, who do you like least rest of season between Andrew Heaney, DeSclafani, Whitlock, and Jameson? It's a tough call. I think the upside's there with Heaney. DeSclafani's only a couple of years removed from being a very good mixed league pitcher. Whitlock, we'll see. I think Whitlock and Jameson are kind of tied at the back end there. I'd say Jameson I like the least, but I'm not with much confidence out of this group. But it's between Whitlock and Jameson for me there. Wish I had a larger answer for that, but that's sort of my gut feeling at this time. Up next, grabbed Castellanos for free off the waiver wire. Hasn't done much beyond a decent batting average. Rest of the season for him versus Nimmo, Suzuki, Meneses, or Bellinger. I haven't believed in Castellanos' ability to bounce back this season. There wasn't a lot in what he did last year that indicated to me that it was somehow he was unlucky, or there was some underlying metric which suggested that he could bounce back. I mean, he's striking out more this year. Yeah, he's hitting 279, but he has a 459 batting average on balls in play. He's yet to hit a home run. There's just more negative than positive. Just not hitting the ball hard anymore. Like, I think forever Castellanos was one of those guys who just hit the ball hard and maybe didn't get the breaks that he should have. But at this point, he's not even hitting the ball hard. So I think you could roster all those guys over Castellanos. Maybe Bellinger, Castellanos is a toss-up, really. But yeah, I don't think you necessarily have to drop any of those guys. Let's see what's up next. Okay. Colin, can you please rank Joey Meneses, TJ Friedl, and Miguel Vargas, presumably, rest of season? I'd still put Vargas first there with the Dodgers. I know he's gotten off to a slow start. He was actually my Rookie of the Year pick for the National League, which is not looking so hot for multiple reasons. But but I still think he will likely prove most valuable out of this group. Has that second base eligibility as well, which I think helps his chances. Joey Meneses was a cool story last year. Um, but I'm not sure how much staying power he has. I mean, anybody who is kind of that late bloomer kind of profile, you just don't know if it's just small sample stuff or something, that's actually sustainable. Um, Frito's interesting. He's played well so far this year. He's hitting over 300. There's some pop. There's some speed in his game too. So it's probably between Friedel and Vargas for me, but I like the spot there for Vargas, and I also think the second base eligibility is no small thing either. Move on here in a second, but just a quick reminder: every season is draft season. Get your Roto-World Draft Guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts, packed with profiles, rankings, projections. Order today and get all 3 Roto-World Draft Guides for the price of 2. Plus, use promo code BERRY, BERRY, and save an extra 20% off at checkout. So make sure to get that bundle today. You can go to NBCSportsEdge.com to check it out. Up next here, Captain Vic with a question. He says, what are your thoughts on Jared Kelenic long term? Will the breakout continue, or do you see him slumping long term? Take a sip of my coffee first, if you don't mind. We're just all pals hanging out, right? Just a nice lunch chat conversation about fantasy baseball. Pretty good way to start your afternoon. So Kelenic long term, who's to say, but certainly with what we've seen to date with Kelenic is super promising. And yeah, the light tower power is awesome. He hit one that I think it was to like right center field the other day. That was just one of the longest home runs I've seen in a while. Just really impressive power. But I think the most impressive thing so far for Kelenic is the chase rate is way down. That was problematic for him in the past. If he can continue to rein that in, I think we could be looking at the player maybe we thought we were going to see a couple of years ago when Kelenic was first called up. Progress is not a straight line for prospects. Like it doesn't work that way. And for him to be as highly regarded as he was, around the time in the trade with for Edwin Diaz. I mean, some of that maybe was New York hype, whatever the case may be. But prospect evaluators pretty much across the board, thought he was one of the best prospects in the game. It's just taken him a little while to adjust. I hope that what we're seeing right now is, the player that he's going to be. We'll see. But I think there's a lot to be excited about. And it's not just one of those things that's necessarily fluky if these, this plate skills and approach has matured and evolved. So I'm excited. Do I hold Tyler O'Neill? Appears his playing time taking a hit in a crowded outfielder. Jorge Soler is available. Thanks for the question, John. So with O'Neill, I do think that it's something to explore. There's an issue there with Ali Mormal, where O'Neill didn't hustle on a play in a home plate, and there was a very public spat. How much of that is really a factor in playing time? I think if he was the player he was 2 years ago, if he was producing at that level, he would be playing every day because he's so good. You know what I mean? But he struggled last year. There was some injuries, and this year not off to a hot start either. I think his OPS is south of 700 right now. So he's not producing. And Lars Nootbaar back from the injured list. So yeah, I could see him being more of a platoonish type of player. But he could also bounce back and force his way into the situation. But I'm a fan of a bounce back from Jorge Soler. I've said that dating back to spring training. Injuries really hampered his production last year. And yes, the Marlins ballpark, Lone Depot, whatever they're calling it, it's a tough place for power, but Soler is one of those guys that can hit anywhere. His power plays in any ballpark, in any situation. So I think that Soler is not a bad alternative if you are waiting on ONeill. The worst is when you from day to day you don't know if a player is going to be in the lineup. Like that is a hard thing. It's a headache for a fantasy manager to every day have to check that lineup card just to make sure that the players you drafted are in the lineup. Ideally, you're going to want someone who's going to be in there every day. Jorge Soler will be. He will likely be either second, third, fourth in that Marlins lineup. It has been changing a little bit, but yeah, I think I would maybe go for that one. I like it. So this is a very long name, but I'm just going to go with Patrick. He's asking Taj Bradley, Sonny Gray, Lucas Giolito. Which one do I like for the remainder of the season here? I have to say Sonny Gray is my answer. And I was honestly a little surprised that there wasn't a bit more helium on Gray coming into the season because he had a pretty good year last year. He really did. And he was being drafted super late in mixed league drafts this spring. He has changed up his pitch mix, which is certainly working for him right now. The slider is getting a ridiculous amount of swings and misses. Looking at Baseball Savant right now, the slider for Sonny Gray has a whiff rate of 59.1%, which seems like a misprint. That's like Edwin Diaz level misses with the slider, but throwing his curveball more than any other pitch. Has a really varied arsenal too, sinker, four-seamer, cutter that he's throwing as well. So I'm big on the Twins pitchers right now. Jorge Lopez off to a great start too, as he's evolved his pitch arsenal. Got that extension from the Twins on Monday, at least reportedly. I'm not sure if it's official yet. But I like what I'm seeing from Gray. Giolito, dating back to last year, just something's not right there. Taj Bradley, I think he's going to be good. I'm excited about him, but I'm not sure how many innings he'll throw. I think Gray's a pretty good bet to throw 160, 180 innings, whatever. He's going to be there all year, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Up next, do I believe in Tristan Casas? I do, but is he someone you're keeping in a mixed league? I think I could take it or leave it. I think with Casas, it's the strikeout rate is pretty high so far this year. Has a couple of homers. I think we'll see better. I think he's better than what he's shown so far. The max exit velocity this year is 110.8. He's hitting a lot of fly balls, and the opportunity should be there. But to me, he's kind of fringy as far as like a standard mixed league, like 12 team. And you would probably only use him as a corner infielder anyway. He's not necessarily a starting option there. Okay, here we go. I have Miranda and Grissom. I could start in flex. Who's better rest of season? I think this is one of those questions where it depends on what your needs are, because Grissom is going to run, Miranda not necessarily. So it may just ultimately be the composition of your roster and how things are looking for you in your fantasy standings right now. There are questions about Grissom's defense. There's no question about that. There are questions about his defense. There's no question about that. Sorry. So we'll see if Grissom can make that progress at shortstop, prove his doubters wrong defensively. That's the biggest factor, I think, to him staying in the lineup. I don't think it's his ability to hit. And with stolen bases on the rise across the majors, he should run too. I think he's going to be double digits in homers and steals. So I would maybe put Grissom slightly ahead of Miranda, at least assuming he has regular playing time. Who's a quality first baseman I can pick up over Christian Walker rest of season? Availability on my roster, on my waiver wire: Will Myers, Wilmer Flores, Garrett Cooper, and Bethancourt, the catcher with the Rays. I'm not sure if any of these guys are jumping off the page to me. Walker, I think when it's all said and done, he's probably going to have 30 home runs. You know, so I wouldn't worry about any kind of initial slow starts. I really like Will Myers in Cincinnati, but I also think that if he gets off to a good start, if he's playing well come All Star break, he could be traded to a situation where maybe he isn't playing every day. And part of what makes Myers so attractive is that ballpark in Cincinnati. So if he leaves there, goes to a place that isn't as hitter friendly, he's less exciting. I would stick with Walker and hope the power shines through. So, question for Pete here. Which starter would you rather have rest of season? Graham Ashcraft, Anthony DeSclafani, Taj Bradley, Tyler McGill, Bryce Elder, or Johan Oviedo? Yeah, and I think they're all kind of in that same group for sure. I might take Oviedo out of this mix just because I don't think the Pirates are going to win a lot of games. That's going to impact his win potential. Elder, maybe he gets knocked out of the rotation at some point. I don't think he's a sure thing. McGill, he has the win so far. I'm not sure he's pitched quite as good as his record would indicate. I've already said I like Taj Bradley. I might take a shot on Bradley's upside over DeSclafani and Ashcraft, to be honest with you. Even though I like Ashcraft, I think he's going to be useful in mixed leagues this year, and I like the stuff. But given the injuries in the Rays rotation, Jeffrey Springs unfortunately out for a while. We don't really know how long that's going to be. Zach Eflin should be back fairly soon, but Tyler Glasnow also sidelined, and it's unclear when he'll be back. Bradley should get a shot to stick in this rotation. So, yeah, I'd go with Bradley. Shoot for the upside. How do I feel about Jack Flaherty? Is he worth a shot in a 12-team points league? I know he pitched really well last night. Let me pull up the line for Flaherty. So, yeah, I mean, the first two starts, I was not touching Flaherty because the first start, 7 walks. Second start, 6 walks. And he had a really good outing in Coors Field. Last night was pretty good. 4 runs in 6 innings, not so great, but it was a pretty good start. It was a pretty good start there. So, yeah, it's tough. I'm not necessarily sold on Flaherty because, out of those, he threw 90 pitches last night, Jack Flaherty, and only 4 swings and misses. So I want to see more of that. Like, I think there's still like this name recognition with Flaherty where we remember what he was as being this kind of burgeoning fantasy ace. Like, he's not that pitcher right now. I think he's pretty fringy. I think he's more of like a matchup play for me right now. I wouldn't feel safe running him out there every start. So, was last night a blip or a reminder for Kyle Freeland managers? So, yeah, I mean, that's the nature of pitching in Coors Field, right? I mean, he was really, really good his first 3 starts. But yeah, nine runs, 7 earned against the Pirates in just 2 2/3 innings. One of those regression monsters attacked him last night. His two previous starts were also at Coors Field, and he pitched really well. Yeah, I don't think you're ever going to feel safe going into a Kyle Freeland starter or any Rocky starter pitching in Coors Field. And last year, Kyle Freeland had a 6 ERA at home. So, yeah, there were a couple of good starts at Coors, but I don't know. I'm never going to feel great about that. That's for sure. Another question here from Patrick. Brandon Lau, Vaughn Grissom, or Nolan Gorman rest of the season. Brandon Lau would be the pick for me. I just think the power upside is through the roof there with Brandon Lau, and already off to a good start from a power perspective so far this season. I think he can hit 30 home runs this year. there is the concern about the left on left matchups. Is he going to sit in those games? Yes, that is a danger. But I think when he plays, he's going to mash. So he's a player I would hold on to. Question from Rhino here. Another question. Better shortstop rest of the season: Jorge Mateo, Zach Neto, Vaughn Grissom when eligible. I think Jorge Mateo is the play here. Scott Pianowski and I did a podcast, I think it was right before the season started, talking about players who were drafted outside the top 200 who were likely to finish the year as top 100 players. Given how this year's played out with the speed situation, it was impossible to really know at the time how this was going to play out, what impact this was going to have in the game. We figured teams would run more, but I think we underestimated the impact. And given what Mateo can do, he's put up huge stolen bases numbers in the past. There's like 50 steal potential with Mateo this year, and that might be underselling it. There's also power upside. Grissom doesn't reach that, as far as speed. And Neto, it's a very aggressive call up by the Angels. I think they believe in the skills, obviously, to promote him and his ability to handle shortstop. But I don't know, like fantasy-wise, if he's going to give you the juice that you want. Can he be a double-digit homer steal guy? Probably. But I think he's more about the approach and the contact ability and the defense than giving you like really shiny fantasy numbers. Question from John here: is Jazz Chisholm a drop in an 8-team league? I have Muncy and Altuve on the injured list. So this is obviously, a more shallow type of format. But even if that's the case, I don't think you drop Jazz Chisholm because, coming into the year, Jazz Chisholm for me was a top 50 player. And I'm not sure like 3 weeks of data is enough to change that. And also keep in mind, he's adjusting to playing center field. His spot in the lineup has kind of been up and down so far. Like, let's just let things settle in a little bit. And I think he'll be maybe not worth that top 50 status. Maybe he will be, but maybe he won't. But at least I think the counting stats are going to be there that give him a safe enough floor. And the upside is a top, a first round type of talent. So no, I would not drop Jazz Chisholm, even in a league as shallow as that one. Better add off waivers: Mitch Keller, Lauer, Kikuchi, Malley, or Heaney. I was looking at Kikuchi today. I believe his next start is against the Yankees. I could be wrong, so that scared me off a little bit. I think I'm not a huge fan of Lauer, so I would probably not include him in this mix. I was just saying how I'm a big fan of what the Twins are doing here, pitching staff. So going into the year, even I would have had Malley first, then Heaney, then Keller, Kikuchi, Lauer, and I'm going to stick with that at this point in time. So Malley's the one for me. Mitch, I need to drop one of these guys: ONeill, Colas, or Mancini. Which one? Ooh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. Let me see what Colas has been up to recently. Not a ton from Colas. I think I would probably drop Colas, to be honest. At least Mancini and ONeill have done it before. Colas hasn't. He's struggling in his initial look against Major League pitching. I would go with the guys with the track record of a Colas who, isn't going to run a ton. I think ONeill has at least he can bring some speed to the table. Mancini has proven that he can be a power contributor at the Major League level. So I would probably drop Colas here. All right, Chad, which veteran has the best chance of keeping up their current pace? Matt Chapman, Cody Bellinger, Andrew McCutchen, and which one is least likely? So Chapman is the one that you want. You know, can he keep up the pace that he's done to date? That's a great question. I just want to take a quick look at his plate discipline so far this year. So Matt Chapman, the strikeout rate is down to 22.1% this year. So yeah, you look at the 410 batting average, you're like, no, not sustainable. Matt Chapman has a 500 batting average on balls in play. So yeah, that's not sustainable. But things that tend to regulate a bit over time or stabilize rather is the plate discipline numbers. And Matt Chapman in 2019, he had a strikeout rate of 21.9%. That year, he had 36 home runs, 91 RBIs, 102 runs scored. Yes, only hit 249. I think best case scenario, Matt Chapman is like a 250, 260 hitter. Like going from this point forward, if that's what happened, I'd be really happy. The strikeout rate going down though, like that's a big positive. You look at 2020 for Chapman, 35.5%. 2021, 32.5%. Last year, 27.4%. This year, 22.1% for that strikeout rate. The lower the strikeout rate, the happier I'm going to be. The quality of contact has been off the charts. And in fact, it's been so good that Matt Chapman's expected batting average is 377 right now. So that's a sign that, yeah, the power is legit. We already knew that. It's a ton of fly balls in a ballpark that has undergone some cosmetic changes which should help from a power perspective too. Uh, yeah, it's not much of a competition there between Chapman and Bellinger and McCutchen. I think McCutchen may be least likely just because I think the ceiling is lower for him than Bellinger or Chapman at this point. And that's just by nature of where he is in his career. So let's see. Oh, here's a good one. Brent Rooker or Patrick Wisdom, rest of season. Rooker's StatCast looks legit. Yeah, I mean, Rooker's StatCast does look legit. In this small sample here, he's made a lot of quality contact, so I can't really deny that. Rooker hasn't had, long stretches of opportunity in the majors, and a team like the A's, and they're an embarrassment for a lot of reasons. And I got to see it firsthand when they walked 17 Mets last Friday. Uh, there's going to be a chance for a player like Rooker who maybe hasn't gotten that opportunity in other organizations. So even in a bad situation, an embarrassing situation, the roster that they have, there's opportunity for a player like Rooker to shine. I think we should see a long sample here with Rooker finally and see what he can do. I'd rather have Wisdom rest of season just because he's done it before. He's hit for power before. There's serious batting average risk. Like I'll acknowledge that. But Wisdom will probably hit 30 home runs this year. So I'm going to go with someone who at least I've seen it on the baseball card before. Rooker hasn't quite done that yet. So Wisdom would be the pick for me. I had to drop Javier Baez and Nelson Cruz. I'm totally fine with those drops. Baez has been a disappointment ever since putting on a Tigers uniform. Nelson Cruz is more of a platoon player, so I think you're fine dropping those players in a mixed league. Matt Liberatore, when do you think he gets the call? He's looked pretty nice thus far, plus great in spring training. The good sign for Liberatore is the velocity being up. Like if he's really taken things to a new level with the stuff, he could really be something here. I know Adam Wainwright's on his way back, but if Liberatore continues to pitch well, he's going to get a chance in this rotation sooner or later. So yeah, I was thinking earlier today about like the kind of stash lists for prospects and both position players and pitchers. And Liberatore needs to be near the top of the list, I think, among the players who are still in the minors. Like Brett Beatty's up now. Zach Neto was more of a surprise, but of course we were awaiting Brett Beatty. Grayson Rodriguez was called up in recent weeks. Liberatore is not. He's not going to be a front of the rotation pitcher. I think he's more of that mid to back end type, but there could still be value in that in mixed league. So I'm watching the velocity pretty closely here. Just about to wrap things up in the next couple of minutes, but a reminder, download the RotoWorld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. You can also get alerts for players sent right to your phone, which is pretty cool. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your app store today. Make sure to get the RotoWorld app. It has our, everything you love about our player news section. You will find there. Raisel Iglesias worth a stash. Not sure when he's coming back. I'm not sure when Raisel Iglesias should be back, but certainly, if you have an IL spot available, he should be in one. You know what I mean? There's no reason that he should be available on waivers right now. I think Iglesias maybe was doing some flat ground throwing. I think that was the last thing I heard. And certainly I would welcome him back with open arms in leagues where I had him. Iglesias was the guy I was being the most aggressive with closers in drafts this spring. Just the way he finished the season with the Braves last year, a team, the Braves, who I think at full strength, I think they're the best team in the majors. There's the potential for, at least going into the year, I thought there was potential for like 40 plus saves maybe for Iglesias. So I certainly hope he comes back soon. I haven't heard a lot about progress with him, unfortunately. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Steven again here. What are your thoughts on Luis Garcia? This is the Astros pitcher, Luis Garcia. Are we seeing his struggles due to changing his motion for the pitch clock, or is it a bigger picture issue? Will he right himself? I mean, a change like that, I don't think is a small thing. Of course, Garcia had like the rock the baby windup that he had to change. And yeah, I mean, the control numbers have not been good so far. He's walked, 7 batters in 14 innings. That is not so great. The velocity has been down too, so that's not great either. Can he right the ship? Probably, but I think there's a couple of different factors at play here, and not necessarily just the wind up. The velocity being down is something that I'm watching here. All right, I'm gonna do one more question, barring any other big questions popping up here. But we'll do one more. We'll close out here with Gunnar Henderson. What do I think about Gunnar Henderson? I'm gonna pull up his page real quick and look at the latest for Gunnar Henderson. So it has been a struggle for Gunnar, as we know. The strikeout rate is insanely high for Gunnar Henderson. It seems like pretty much every game he's either striking out at least once or twice. He is coming off a 2-hit game on Sunday, scored 3 runs. But yeah, this hasn't been what we were hoping for coming into the year. Certainly not. I think the positives are that when he's making contact, he's hitting the ball hard. It's just the contact has just not been there for Henderson. I do think maybe there reaches a point where the Orioles have to think about demoting him, but I don't think we're to that point yet. But certainly the contact rate, as it stands right now, is 65.5%. It was 74.8% in his first test of the majors last year. So certainly disappointing. I think there's power and speed upside here, but it is a struggle. And baseball is a game of adjustments. The league's adjusting to him, and now he has to adjust back. So, and the other part of the question here, 10-team points league. I traded Senga and Holmes for Gunnar Henderson. Henderson is off to a slow start, but do you think he figures it out? I think he'll get more chances. I don't think, we are 3 weeks into the season, and if you remember how Julio Rodriguez started out last year, it was not so hot, so be careful. 3 weeks is not everything, and he's a rookie, so I wouldn't give up on him too soon. But yeah, I mean, if these struggles stretch out in the mid-May, then yeah, we have a real conversation about where he is and if he would be better off getting some at-bats in the minors. But I don't think we're to that point yet. So hold tight on Henderson if you can. Keep him in a bench spot for a few days, wait for some signs of progress. Certainly we want to see that from a contact perspective. So that'll do it for me this week. Thanks as always for joining me here. You can follow me on Twitter at DJ Short, and remember to subscribe to the Circling the Bases podcast. Myself, Scott Pianowski from Yahoo, We tape shows Mondays and Wednesdays. Tomorrow's show will be our Waiver Wire Wednesday show. So we'll each offer 5 pickups in leagues where players are available in more than 50% of Yahoo leagues. So we'll try to look for all depths, try to help as many people as we can with these pickups. So subscribe to the show, check it out, listen. You can see it on the NBC Sports YouTube page as well. But thanks again for the questions. I will see you here again next week, 1 p.m. Eastern time.